Good afternoon, everybody. Today's February 3rd, 2026. This is the Transportation Committee. I'm Senator Tim Nangle. I'm the Senate Chair. I represent Senate District 26. We'll start with introductions to my left.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Representative Steve Bishop from District 17, Bucksport, Orland, Verona, and Penobscot.
Good afternoon. I'm Karen Montel and I represent House District 54, Farmingdale and Gardner.
Good afternoon. I'm Representative Roger Albert, District 2, which is the St. John Valley up in Aroostook County.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Glad you're back. Yeah. Michael Ray, Representative. I represent House District 40, which includes the island of Islesboro, the towns of Appleton, Lincolnville, Liberty, Morrill, Montville, Steersmont. Thanks.
Trying to get past my eggs. I am Representative Holly Eaton. I serve House District 15 and I live in the town of Deer Isle.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Wayne Perry. I represent House District 140, which covers Arundel, Dayton, and about half of Lyman.
Good afternoon. I'm Representative Lydia Crafts of House District 46 and serve as the House Chair.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Brad Farron. I live in Norridge Walk and I represent Senate District 3.
Good afternoon. Dan Ankleys, House District 100, part of Brunswick.
Good afternoon. I am Rick Mason. I represent District 97, which are the great folks of Lisbon.
Good afternoon. I'm Representative Jim White. I represent District 30, which is Guilford, Greenville, the north of the Piscataquis County, and 2 towns in Somerset.
Thank you, everybody. We've got 2 public hearings today. So I'm going to read the public hearing notice. I'm Senator Nangle and will be presiding over the public hearings today at the Joint Standing Committee on Transportation. The purpose of the hearing is to invite testimony from members of the public regarding proposed legislation that is pending before this committee. The committee will hear testimony from persons present who wish to speak for or against, neither for nor against the bills to be heard today. With leave of the chair, the committee members may ask questions of any person testifying today. Other questions aren't permitted. Whether or not you testify, you may submit written testimony to the committee. Please be mindful that testimony is public and is available to all once it's been presented. Persons testifying at the public hearing today are advised that the hearing is live streamed and may be seen and heard by persons watching online, and that a recording of the meeting will be archived. Several important items related to the format of this meeting. First, if you're in the room here with us, please mute the audio and microphone on your electronic devices. This will prevent audio disruptions. Second, if you're joining on Zoom, if the name you used to sign into Zoom is not the same as you used on the legislature's website to register to testify, it may be difficult for us to identify when it is your turn to testify. We won't close the hearing until we've given everybody on Zoom an opportunity to testify. If you're having technical difficulties, please call our committee clerk, Andrew, at 207-287-4148. Finally, all questions from the committee must be made with leave of the chair. For today's hearing, we'll be taking testimony from people in the room and those who have registered to testify electronically. Pursuant to committee rules, this committee will give members of the public priority when we take testimony. Only the sponsor and co-sponsors of the bill will be recognized before members of the public. We will take testimony in the following order: those speaking in favor, those speaking in opposition, and then those speaking neither for nor against, but wish to offer additional information. We will have a 3-minute time limit to public testimony. The time remaining will be displayed on the monitor in front of the chairs. If you're in the room and have prepared testimony, please provide 20 copies to our clerk, Andrew. Testimony submitted electronically through the legislator's testimony portal is available by clicking on the committee materials link on this webpage. Concept draft amendments, if submitted, are also available via this link. When you're called upon, I will ask you to state your name, place of residence, and the organization you represent, if any. When you introduce yourself, please be sure to indicate how you would like members to refer to you and address you. For opening the hearing, I will remind folks in the room once again to mute the audio and microphone from all electronic devices. For those joining on Zoom, please keep your microphone muted until it is your turn to speak. I now recognize Representative Crafts to present LD 305.
Good afternoon, Senator Nangle, members of the Joint Standing Committee on Transportation. I'm Representative Lydia Crafts. Thank you for having me here to present LD 305, an act regarding transportation in Maine. We have worked last session to update the Disabled Veterans Excise Exemption Law, trying to make the program more targeted. In doing so, it was brought to my attention that the program unintentionally excluded veterans who qualify for the program except that they lease their vehicles rather than own them. This update was brought to me by the good representative from Oakland, and I think he's here and will provide other real-life examples from his community. I do ask that the committee consider maintaining the emergency preamble and making the policy retroactive back to May of 2025 so that we can right the wrong for those who have not received the exemption as I believe this committee had originally intended for them to be. I'm happy to take any questions. Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone, Representative Nutting? Are you a co-sponsor?
Yes.
Okay.
As the sponsor of the original bill from last session, I was a little confused as to whether, since this is Representative Kraft's bill, whether I was still responsible to bring the tithe from, but I decided to err on the side of sweetness.
Good job.
You can never go wrong.
Given the holiday, Valentine's Day and Groundhog Day as well. Good afternoon, Senator Nangle, Representative Crafts, and distinguished members of the Joint Standing Committee on Transportation. I am Representative Bob Nutting, and I'm proud to represent the citizens of Starks, Mercer, Smithfield, Oakland, and a part of Sydney. I'm here today to testify in support of LD 305 as amended by the sponsor's amendment, which I believe you have before you today, an act regarding transportation in Maine. First, I want to thank the bill's sponsor, Representative Crafts, and Speaker Fecto, for their assistance in getting this to committee in such a timely manner. I'm very appreciative. My LD 1581 was enacted in the first special session. It was voted unanimously out of this committee. It passed under the hammer in the House and in the Senate and was signed by the governor on May 30th, 2025. The intent was to continue the exemption from automobile excise tax for certain disabled veterans while preventing the misuse of the exemption by certain individuals. There were cases prior to the law change last May. It was possible to have your name on any number of registrations and be if you were a veteran qualified as such, that there would be no excise tax on all those vehicles. So for instance, if I were a 100% disabled veteran and you all allowed me to put my name on your registration, you would pay no excise tax. That seemed like an overuse of a good thing. And I was contacted by a number of communities to try to fix it. Unfortunately, as implemented, the statute unintentionally excludes a significant group of disabled veterans, those who lease their vehicles rather than owning them. This exclusion creates an inequity that was not contemplated during legislative debate and runs counter to the spirit of the law. In fact, leasing is quite often used for new vehicles for short periods of time, reducing the monthly payments. Leasing may be the most practical and affordable option for veterans living on fixed incomes or disability compensation. By limiting eligibility to owned vehicles only, the statute inadvertently penalizes disabled veterans who rely on leasing as a financially responsible choice. And that's because we changed it from the registration to the title. And the lessee, the person who leases the vehicle, doesn't get their name on the title. As a result, veterans with identical service-connected disabilities are being treated differently solely based on the method by which they obtain transportation. The proposed legislation simply clarifies legislative intent by explicitly including leased vehicles while maintaining appropriate safeguards. It requires that the qualifying veteran be named as a lessee, and registrant. In other words, their name has to be on the registration and their name has to be on the application for title. Although the lessee's name is on the application for title, it is not on the title. And that's what we seek to correct here. These provisions ensure that the exemption remains targeted, controlled, and consistent with current policy objectives. Given the narrow scope of this fix, the clear unintended consequence it addresses, and the importance of the equitable treatment of disabled veterans, I respectfully ask that you report this bill out of committee with an ought to pass as amended vote. Before I close, I will just say that the only thing that I have a question about on this bill, and I leave this to the committee and your analyst, is since it asked to be retroactive for those veterans who already came through the system, their registration expired at a certain point, they had to register their vehicle, they had to pay that excise tax because of what I did in the bill that we passed. If we mandate, well, that's the question. Is it a mandate? Requiring towns and cities and towns to pay back any money they've collected. Does this bill require a mandate? I don't know. I generally don't like mandates, but in this particular case, I leave that to you to decide whether that needs to be added to the bill or not. I thank you. I'm very happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Senator Farren.
Easy questions from the Senate. Yeah.
This is, it's kind of in line with what you just said about the mandate. Would you also think that we probably should add an emergency to this bill if the committee?
Yes, I do.
Would you support
I do.
that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did it?
Yeah, I think it's there somewhere. Maybe in the beginning.
Response to amendment. Okay, gotcha. So apologies.
Any
It was
other,
easy. It was already in.
any other questions for Representative Dunning? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll take testimony for those in favor of Representative Kraft's bill. Anybody who wants to testify in favor? Don't all rush down at once. Do we have anybody on Zoom? Okay, anyone who would like to testify in opposition? Okay, anyone who'd like to testify neither for nor against?
Good afternoon, Senator Nangle, Representative Crafts, and members of the Transportation Committee. Good afternoon. My name is Anya Trundy. I'm a Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Administrative and Financial Services, and I'm testifying neither for nor against LD 305 as amended. The testimony pertains to the sponsor's proposed amendment. The amendment, which is retroactive to May 30th, 2025, adds an automobile lessee to the exemption of excise tax and the maximum number of automobiles exempt from the excise tax for certain veterans. Under Title 36, Section 1483, Sub 12, certain disabled veterans are entitled to exemption from the motor vehicles excise tax. This exemption has historically required and currently requires ownership of the vehicle by the veteran. This proposal would create the only excise tax exemption under Section 1483 that applies to leased vehicles. Furthermore, it's unclear how refunds would be identified and distributed for excise tax already paid on automobiles that would be retroactively exempt. And the bill would likely impose additional administrative burdens on municipalities and/or the state to process and document retroactive refunds. We strongly recommend that if the committee chooses to move forward with the bill, the changes be made by the bill to not be applied retroactively, changing the effective date. We said here to October 1st, but thinking on my feet, if it's an emergency, July 1st would be reasonable. Greatly simplifying the bill's administration while still accomplishing its core objectives. I just want to say, I think Representative Nutting may be falling on his sword a little bit. I don't think the change here, it wasn't an issue that was created by his bill last year. The ownership language has been in statute for a very long time, and has always excluded lessees from this. So it wasn't a change that was created by him amending the statute last year. I think what may have happened is that by amending the statute, town clerks for the first time were looking at the statute anew and realizing that it had an ownership requirement on it and that it didn't apply to lessees. So in conclusion, we don't have any objection to extending it to lessees. I think that the effective date that's considered in the bill currently indicates that the intent was to undo something that was done last legislative session, and nothing was done last legislative session. That language predates last year's legislation by many, many, many years. So there's no preliminary fiscal estimate at this point in time. It won't be a fiscal impact to the state. It'll be on local tax receipts, but a limited number of taxpayers in any given town, we would assume. And the administrative costs will depend on how refunds are administered. We anticipate that being primarily a municipal problem, but depending, I guess it could bubble up to the state. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Trump?
Great, thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to testify neither for nor against?
Good afternoon, Senator Nangle, Representative Crafts, and members of the Transportation Committee. My name is Tanya Emery, and I'm providing placeholder testimony for LD 305 on behalf of the Maine Municipal Association, MMA, our 70-member Legislative Policy Committee elected by their peers to represent municipalities. The LPC has not yet taken a position on this bill, but will consider it at their meeting next week. For reference, MMA is a nonpartisan, nonprofit member services organization and aims to help provide policy solutions that work for all residents of Maine. The LPC guides MMA's advocacy efforts and establishes positions on bills of municipal interest. MMA's LPC will likely acknowledge the importance of parity for disabled veterans when it comes to the motor vehicle excise tax exemption afforded to vehicle owners. The primary concerns we'd like to raise at this time are the retroactivity of this provision and the continued erosion of municipal funding streams. Expanding exemptions to tax programs in Maine, even worthy ones, transfers costs to average property taxpayers. Revenue streams are eroded by exemptions, but the underlying costs do not go away. Given the unprecedented nature of the retroactivity of the proposal to retroactively provide this exemption, MMA's LPC will undoubtedly inquire as to the source of the funding for these reimbursements and the administration of this work. Is this work that the state will be taking on, or should this bill be passed as amended? The retroactive application of the exemption proposed would create an administrative and budgetary burden on municipalities if so assigned. Notably, providing refunds retroactively could impact audited financials. MMA's LPC will likely suggest amending the bill to remove the retroactive provision. MMA will submit additional information to the committee after the LPC meeting next week. Thank you for your time and attention. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Anybody have any questions? Senator Farren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You heard the testimony before about probably was unintended consequences of clerks implementing with the statute change. If, you know, with what we're hearing here and we go into work session, if we were able not to do that, going backwards, taking that peek backwards and making it effectively down through, would that alleviate most of your concerns with the bill?
I think that would alleviate most of our concerns. I don't think it's likely to be an enormous fiscal impact. The idea of having to open up past audited financials, et cetera. Thank you.
That makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Inman? Seeing none, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to testify neither for nor against?
Yes, please. Good afternoon, Senator Nangle, Representative Crafts, and members of the Transportation Committee. I am Deputy Secretary of State Emily Cook, the Department's Senior Policy Director, and I am also providing testimony neither for nor against LD 305. As you've heard, the bill provides an excise tax exemption for certain veterans who drive a leased vehicle or two or three. While the payment of excise taxes and registration fees are often commingled in drivers' minds, we do not actually administer or receive the excise tax. As just heard, that's municipalities. So we do not take a position on whether or not an excise tax exemption is appropriate. However, should the committee decide to include a registration fee exemptions for leased vehicles, we stand ready to work with the committee on language for that. And we would also note that retroactivity could create some serious and costly implementation problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none. Thanks. Anybody else who would like to testify neither for nor against? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you. Well, I guess I'd like to know if it does create a mandate as well.
If we strict our record.
Sure. Somebody want to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we go into work session on LD 305.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Unanimous, those present? You can hear us?
He was gone. All right.
So I think Ms. Trundy's testimony does make the retroactivity problematic. I know that I had a constituent in one of my towns where the town charged excise when they shouldn't have, and to get that refund from a year ago was nightmarish. You know, so I think that that's something that we need to consider. Anything else, Senator Farren?
Yeah, I would make a motion of ought to pass an LD 305 as amended, with the amendment being that we remove the retroactive piece. Because I think that alleviates the whole audit town, all of the concerns that we heard, including the mandate, and just keeps it clean. And that would be the motion that we amend that, removing that piece and make it effective July 1st.
Second.
Okay, so do we need the emergency if it's July 1st?
Yeah,
Okay. Okay,
because any from the May 1st on.
we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous, those present. Actually unanimous, everyone's present.
Nah, we're missing one senator.
No. Okay, LD 2152, an act to make allocations from the Maine Turnpike Authority funds for the Maine Turnpike Authority for the calendar year ending December 31st, 2027. The representative from the Turnpike like to come up? Oh, do you need to present this?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, stand down.
Good practice.
Good afternoon, Senator Nangle and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Transportation. I'm Lydia Crafts. I am here to present an Act LD 2152, an act to make allocations from Maine Turnpike Authority funds for the Maine Turnpike Authority for the calendar year ending December 31st, 2027. I would be happy to entertain any questions.
Senator Farren?
Thank you, Representative Crafts, and congratulations. You're 1-0 today. Public hearing out through. In tab 5, page.
Please continue. Don't let the laughter interfere.
I have nothing.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Anybody who would like to speak in favor?
Tab 5, which attachment? Senator Nangle, Representative Crafts, distinguished members of the committee. I'm Andre Briere. I'm the Executive Director of Maine Turnpike Authority. I'm here on behalf of our agency to testify in support of LD 2152. As you know, the legislative review of our budget's different than the process for allocating funds to Maine DOT Highway Fund budget. MTA does not receive any federal or tax dollars. So as a committee, you do not need to appropriate funding from state coffers. Rather, your role is to review and approve the funds we've allocated from our revenue for the maintenance and operations of the Maine Turnpike. Our primary source of revenue is generated from tolls. In 2025, we generated $185 million in gross toll revenue and had 96.1 million toll transactions, which broke the previous transaction record from 2024 of 95.9 million transactions. The MTA also gave back to Maine Easy Pass account holders $7.7 million in discounts. This operating budget, referred to as the revenue fund budget in the bill text, totals $63.9 million plus a 10% contingency. That includes a 10% contingency. This portion of the budget's about 33% of the total turnpike revenue projected for calendar year 2027. It includes the salaries and benefits of MTA employees that make up 70% of the budget, funding for state police, Troop G, that is dedicated to patrolling the turnpike, which accounts for 15%. Remaining 15% is for consumables such as utility, fuel, and salt, among other things. Excluding the contingency, the total budget is 1.99 million higher. That's a 3.55% increase over FY 2026 budget that you approved last year. The largest increase in the 2027 budget is from salaries and benefits. The remaining funds, starting on page 2, continuing to page 3, are raised for capital projects, debt service, and other expenses that must be accounted for outside of the operating budget by requirements of our debt obligation. With that, you do have the budget binder with plenty of tabs and information, which we can discuss now or at the work session at your discretion. This time, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Representative Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Rear, for being here. Something we ask usually different members of the committee every time we go through this is, has the Turnpike, excuse me. I know we're at a 40% kickback on the Easy Pass on the percentage.
30 or 40, yeah.
It used to be 50.
Mhm.
And we always ask, when are we going to be able to get back to 50? Because that's usually a big question from constituents that they always ask. So I always ask you.
Well, I really appreciate the question. I'm pleased to tell the committee that we are in the process of studying root and branch, what that fee structure is and what the discount structure is going to be moving forward. As you know, the current discount structure predated my tenure by quite a bit. I came from a different discount structure state. So right when I got here, I started these conversations. So what we plan on doing is for the next planned adjustment cycle, which is 2028. And that's when it would be due. That's when announcements would be made. But the conversation that we've been having and will continue to have through this calendar year goes to that very notion. My intention, and I've said it publicly on many occasions, is to keep tolls flat, to look at increasing discount rates for Maine Easy Pass holders, to encourage Mainers to move into Easy Pass because that's how you take advantage of that discount. And we'll also be releasing an app late summer time frame that'll actually have a discount countdown on the app that'll be very visible and apparent as you're going through your month, how many more trips on the Turnpike until you receive the next level of discount. So that's going to be more transparent for users, but we do plan on, and we are looking at the entire discount structure to rationalize it and make sure it provides the best discount for the people of Maine.
Yep.
Thank you. That's awesome. Also, is it still around 68% that are paid by out-of-state travelers?
It varies, but this particular budget year was about 63, but it depends on the day, the week, the month. As you know, probably peak tourist season, that number jumps way up. But we say about 2/3 of our tolls are paid by out-of-state drivers.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any Representative Kraft?
Thank you, Director, for being here. I know we've talked in the past about bond ratings and the
Yes.
strength of the Turnpike. Have there been any changes in this proposed budget? Any concerns that the committee should be aware of?
I'm very pleased to announce another talking point that I use quite frequently is we are one of the top 5 bond rated turnpikes of our size in the country. Our aim is to be number 1. So how do we become number 1? Well, it's through the maintenance and the good maintenance order of our Turnpike system itself. It's also by increasing the number of days cash on hand. So with the approval of our board I think it was about 3 months ago, we increased the goal of cash on hand to over 740 days. That's going to have a positive influence on the bond markets and our ability to get money cheaply. And that is the point of raising money in the bond market, is to make our projects as cheap as possible, therefore be able to do more maintenance along our system. So our intention is to demonstrate to bondholders that not only can we keep up on the revenue side, we're keeping up on the maintenance side, and we're actually improving our financial position over time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other, Representative Angley, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for being here, Director Rear. My favorite tab is tab 7.
Yes.
Which is the, it includes the 5%.
It does, yes.
Share with DOT. And I was hoping that you could take this opportunity to talk a little bit about, your organization, agency's changing take
Yes.
on how to allocate the 5% and how to collaborate differently with DOT in terms of like thinking about distance, multimodal, things like that.
Thank you so much for the question. I congratulate my colleague on his confirmation today as Commissioner of Maine DOT, Dale Dowdy. We've worked incredibly closely ever since I took over this position, working first with Bruce Van Note and now Dale. Our intention was to really reimagine what that 5% looks like. In the past, there have been some large capital projects that we've contributed to through the 5%, but we want to open up the aperture and say, you know, we adopted a strategy this year, and the tagline, the bumper sticker, is "We serve Maine." We serve Maine by running a turnpike, but we can serve Maine in other ways too. One of those ways you may have heard has been contributing over $3 million for a new transit line between Scarborough and Portland, and you'll see that reflected on the 5%. We're looking at additional supports for other mechanisms of transit, including the lap bus, some bike ped projects that we're looking at, also working extremely closely with communities along our corridor to support priorities that they have as well. That's part of enhanced public engagement and being a good neighbor. But what Commissioner Dowdy and I have committed to is a more regular and robust process of assigning projects to the 5%. That's going to be, there's going to be a normal regular cycle, which has never been true in the past. And it's going to start in early fall of each year. That way it can get included into their work plan, and there's more predictability. So if you look at some of the projects that are represented in the 5%, you can see those on tab 7. There is a significant amount of projects to be assigned in calendar year 27 and 28 still, but our guidance on that is just work very closely together. We're looking for additional projects of mutual benefit and ones that are that have a substantial improvement to the multimodal transportation needs of the people of Maine, not just, you know, in the past. I think I would categorize some of the projects as, you know, chip in for repaving at a, you know, at a way station, something like that. That's not really contributing appreciably to the multimodal transportation needs of the people of Maine. We're looking for those projects that really make an impact. And to the extent that we can be a seed funder of innovation for our communities. And an example I give is the bus route that we're supporting between Scarborough and Portland. We're helping stand that up. We're going to see what ridership's like over time. And our contribution decreases over time, and that frees up that money to maybe seed another project. And you know, the benefits we bring to the table are different than the benefits DOT brings to the table, because they can bring in that more sustained federal funding piece, whereas we can look for innovative projects that can help get off the ground. And if they survive, if they thrive, then they can be taken over down the road by that more stable federal funding. But thank you so much for the question. We're very excited about the work we're doing together with Maine DOT on identifying these 5%. And 5% is our legislative mandated goal. You'll notice over time, we regularly exceed that per year. It's a 3-year rolling average, but, and we are not opposed to exceeding in any given year that 5% if it makes sense and if it helps a project get off the ground.
Representative Parr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director, I know you're looking at a lot of new projects and different things along the turnpike. I know there's one down in Biddeford, you're looking to redo that interchange. And that kind of comes into this 5% deal because any of that work is going to have huge implications on Route 111.
Sure.
Would be for DOT and some massive changes that we'll need there. Is that how you kind of try to figure out how that's coming and kind of give DOT leeway into their projects and what will need to be done there? And projects like that where it's a major renovation for Maine Turnpike, but also affects a DOT road where that's where the 5% goes or whatever amounts needed.
Right. And it's where we could combine the best attributes of both of our organizations, that you really do hit a sweet spot. That's one of them, is looking for ways, because on exit 32, that traffic can back up, especially during peak traffic times. That's dangerous for the turnpike. You see these late lanes changes and people trying to swerve in. So that is, this year we have some work planned to slightly help that. But there is, as you say, a more long-term project that we're looking at and we're already working on with DOT to improve that situation and the flow.
Yeah, I know a few weeks back, the traffic was backed almost to Saco.
Yeah.
To get off there. So it's something's got to be done at some point.
That's right.
A huge.
And that is absolutely going to be in our work plan.
Representative Kraus.
This could be for the work session,
Yes.
but I guess I would have a question as you are coming up on 1 year
Mhm.
as the director. I'm wondering if there's anything in the budget as far as significant changes, adjustments that you're looking to make. I know when new directors come on, they typically take some time to get a handle on things, but then sometimes have ideas. Are there any in this budget that you are excited about? Anything you want to share with us?
I am excited about the 5%. One of the biggest changes that the people of Maine are going to see is actually kind of invisible in this budget. And that is the Service Plaza improvement. That we've put a significant amount of effort into renegotiating that contract with Applegreen. And they've committed to put in 25 million in improvements into our service plazas. We still haven't finished negotiations, but we're nearing the end point with them. Improved food options, improved main product placement, improved showcase for our wonderful restaurant scene in Maine. So there's a lot of improvements to the service plazas that are going to be seen, different themes. West Gardner right here is going to get, our intention is that's a camp theme, so it's going to be really nice, with more mooses. But that is one example of a project that over time, we fully anticipate it's going to be revenue beneficial to both parties. So it's a little bit invisible in the budget, but it is taking an awful lot of bandwidth and time to get that over the finish line. It's going to result in a short-term revenue hit as those are renovated, and that obviously is going to have a hit in sales, which you may see in next year's budget. But so many of the things we're doing are that of that innovation and revenue neutral variety. One thing that you will also likely see more reflected next year is our investment in IT modernization. Really about, I want to put this advisedly, there is an awful lot of modernization that I identified and that the team has been working on. Over a dozen major software acquisitions and improvements to make sure that we're the most secure turnpike in the country. And I've spoken at our national convention on cybersecurity for turnpike systems. We are a target. Every DOT, every turnpike is a target of foreign adversaries, and we've seen that over and over again. So we need to make sure we're as hard a target as possible. We also need to make sure we are modernizing our systems to keep up and provide better customer service. And the app is one example of that. Lots and lots of manpower going into that app. The fact that we don't have an app is excluding a whole group of folks from accessing EasyPass, and we plan to fix that this year. It's amazing when I tour, when I have toured, I toured all of them when I got here, but I continue to go and visit our toll plazas. The number of folks that pay cash, there's a lot of young people. And the assumption is that doesn't comport with what many of us expect. But there's an awful lot of young people that they're just more comfortable dealing with things via an app. They don't necessarily want to make phone calls or do that in person. So we're going to make that available to them. We're very excited about that. But there's these and a whole lot of other improvements that I really look forward to keeping the committee informed of.
Representative Perry.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Also, another issue that I know everybody's dealt with is getting enough bidders for projects.
Yeah.
How has that gone forward? I know the Saco project had one bidder.
Yes.
And to have a project in southern Maine and only have one bidder, that's not a good thing. So how's that coming?
Yeah, there's a couple of factors, and some of which this committee is already addressing, right? Making those work zones safer for workers. We know of contractors who have not bid on contracts because of the hazardous nature of some of our work zones. So the safer we make those work zones, I think the more likely we are to get those bidders. Overall, though, I'd make a systemic comment that a lot of that depends on the economy and the competing construction projects, both vertical and horizontal construction that are out there. With the trend we're seeing, and I think transportation agencies nationwide are seeing, is for more bidders. The phenomena of decreased bidders really became acute right after IIJA, the last major federal highway authorization bill, was passed. And it just meant 50 states were going after a very limited pool of contractors all at the same time, trying to spend oodles of federal dollars, which meant turnpike systems are in that whole competition arena. That has slowed down since IIJA has wound down, and we're in another reauthorization year now, with all indications that that money is going to be not as plentiful moving forward. So we think we're going to get more bidders just by virtue of that. We're also seeing many bids come in under engineer estimate, which haven't really seen that since early 2020s. So there's a lot of positives. So far, construction sector inflation has not reared its ugly head as severely as it has in the past either. So we are encouraged and optimistic that we're going to see more bidders on our projects. We're also working very closely with AGC and other construction sector partners to be as open as possible and make our bidding process as transparent as possible. And really building those personal relationships with those bidders and those contractors, especially main contractors. That's who we really want to attract to these jobs. Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Senator Farren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Director. Just kind of, it's a little bit of a follow-up on Representative Perry's, but just before you entered the role, right, we had spent some time having some joint meetings between the industry, the DOT, the Turnpike Authority, to talk about some of those challenges, differences in bid specs, things where we can have you had a chance to look at that
Sure.
report? Because it did come to this committee and stuff, and just curious to what your thoughts were on that.
No, I sure did. Thank you for that question, Senator. And we have taken a lot of steps. One is we're releasing our bid specs later this year. It's going to be very, very tightly aligned with DOT. So it's not, there's not a difference for our contracting community there. And we've looked at every provision in those conversations and have made significant progress in almost all of them. And I think our industry partners would agree with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. So I'm looking at the operating budget detail and history on page 2, travel and subsistence. What does that cover? 5, page 2.
John, did you want
I mean, it's
With the-
almost
with the committee's-
$100,000.
to, excuse me, sir?
It's almost $100,000.
Yeah, and I'll ask my CFO to, if with the permission of the committee, to answer the question.
Yep.
Good afternoon. Let's see.
If you can just do a quick introduction
Oh,
to
sure.
the audience.
My name is John Soroy, and I'm the Chief Financial Officer and Treasurer of the Maine Turnpike Authority. So the travel and subsistence primarily is airfare, hotel, meals, entertainment.
And maybe I can elaborate a little bit. There is one primary trade organization that we get most value out of and that we're a part of, and they have multiple annual meetings for our engineers, for our financial professionals, for our IT professionals. A lot of that represents travel to IBTTA events. That's the International
Bridge Tunnel Turnpike Association.
Turnpike Association. So a lot of that is represented there. We also participate in many multi-state meetings. And this represents the travel of probably well in excess of, I don't know,
Probably 30 plus
Yeah.
people.
over the course of the year.
Okay, and then the next line down is specialized employee training. And that's $80,000. So it's like $177,000 for specialized training and travel and subsistence.
Yes.
Is registration to these
It is included in that line item
in the
in the specialized training.
training? So the participating in the organization doesn't get you free entrance into the,
Unfortunately not, no.
okay.
And this- yeah, sorry.
Just a top line. So how much in toll revenue are you forecasting for 2027?
It's about 172,000 or 2 million, I mean.
170 million.
So if you were to look at
One right here, just cover 191.
so 191 is the total projected revenue. That would include concession revenue, interest, income that.
Yeah, it's different. Tolls
So-
are some subset of that.
So tolls represent about 95% of our overall revenue that we collect annually.
Okay, so you've got 58 million. I'm just gonna say 58.1 million in the budget. Right? For all this on page 1, 2, 2 and 3, right?
63.9.
Mhm.
So how much in bonds? I assume bonds aren't in here, right? Okay.
They're not. If I could refer you to tab 2, page 3. This gives you a really good sources and uses summary. So that is the accounting of the 191 million or 192 million in revenue and how the expenditures are broken out. So the total revenue budget is $64 million, but then we've got debt service, which is another 44 million, required deposit into reserve maintenance, which is set by the general engineering consultant of 42 million, and main DOT debt service for the Sarah Mill Bridge, Long Bridge, I believe it was, is 2.4 million. And the rest basically goes to the bottom bucket, which is for capital improvements.
So is that the 42 million for the reserve maintenance fund?
The 39.5 million.
So I see that as interchange and improvement funds.
Right. That's what we refer to as the bottom bucket, and it's general funds that are available for any purpose and specifically for capital investment.
So what is the reserve maintenance fund?
That is based off a annual survey that the general engineering consultant performs every year, and they come up with a list of required fixes or maintenance on the turnpike, everything from bridges to culverts and buildings. That's the estimated cost.
Okay, so just I'm gonna use Representative Ankley's term, back of the napkin math. We're looking at about $80 million in reserve and interchange improvement funds.
That's correct.
And what is the spend on like the interchange improvement funds?
It depends. It can vary from one year to the next, depending on our capital program.
Okay.
But we typically augment these funds with bond proceeds as well as needed.
Okay.
That's represented in our 4-year work plan.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Seeing none? Is there anyone who would like to continuing the public hearing? Is there anyone who would like to testify in favor? Seeing none, is there anyone who would like to testify in opposition? Seeing none, is there anyone who would like to testify neither for nor against? Seeing none, we close the public hearing. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Motion to adjourn second. All those in favor?